Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is the Mental Wellness channel with Waihiga. If you're new here, I hope that you stick around and take a listen to what I have to share. Today, I want to talk about a reading that I came across, and this is the 17th of April. So we are going to be reading from the book, The Daily Reflections. Now, this is a 12-step reading. It's from a 12-step program. So I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Love and fear as opposites. April 17th. All these failings generate fear, a soul sickness in its own right. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 49. So that quote is from the 12 Steps and the 12 Traditions. Fear knocked at the door. Faith answered. No one was there. I don't know to whom this quote should be attributed, but it certainly indicates very clearly that fear is an illusion. I create the illusion myself. I experienced fear early in my life, and I mistakenly thought that the mere presence of it made me a coward. I didn't know that one of the definitions of courage is the willingness to do the right things in spite of fear. Courage, then, is not necessarily the absence of fear. During the times I didn't have love in my life, I most assuredly had fear. To fear God is to be afraid of joy. In looking back, I realized that during the times I feared God most, there was no joy in my life. As I learned not to fear God, I also learned to experience joy. That is today's daily reflection. The reading was complex. I found it complicated, interesting, simple, all at the same time. And this is what I've gathered from the reading. Some of you may not know, but I'm an alcoholic in recovery. And these are some of the tools we use to stay sober one day at a time. Reading from the Daily Reflections is a tool in which I would use to stay sober today. Gathering what I've gathered from this reading, my life has really been surrounded and empowered and fueled by fear. A lot of my actions, a lot of my character defects have been fueled by fear. One of the first times it was brought to my attention that it was actually fear is when someone told me the root motive or the root emotion behind anger is actually fear. So if you see someone who's really angry all the time, that person is basically in fear. And it was very disarming when I heard that for the first time. And I was like, no, I'm angry because I'm angry. I'm angry because I'm angry. And when you peel back the layers, you start to realize that you're angry because you fear that you're not in control of a situation. You fear that a person does not respect you. You fear an institution does not respect you. You fear that life is not going your way. You fear. That's where anger comes from. Anger is the cousin of fear. Religiously, in Christianity, the Bible will talk a lot about having a fear of God. I took this wrong as a child. Growing up, I looked at God as someone that was to be feared. Something to be feared. The way you fear that you're going to get punishment from something or someone. And God can very much be that. However, the way I'm coming to understand God is that having a fear of God is having reverence for God. And having reverence for God means that you have a respect for God. God is not casual. God is not someone that you can just toy with and play with and think that you can get away with. If you approach God in that way, I don't know if things will go very well. But who am I to speak for you? From my experience, dealing with God has had to be a very thin line between being extremely real and being, this is the maker of creation. Like, do you realize who you're talking to? Do you realize who you're in the presence in? You're in the presence of the most holy. So fearing God to me these days means having a reverence for God. And the Bible also talks about the beginning and the fear. The beginning of wisdom is fearing God. The third thing that this reading talks about that I appreciate is what the word courage means. I always thought that courage meant that you have absolutely no fear and you fearlessly face your problems, the world, whatever challenges are coming at you fearlessly, and you win. That's what I thought courage meant. However, according to this definition, courage is the willingness to face up to challenges despite having fear. If I had waited for the courage to do anything, I would have waited until I died, because I have so much fear in me. I'm driven, as I've said earlier, by so much fear. If I had waited to start this channel, for instance, if I'd waited to have the courage, according to my definition of what courage means, to start this channel, meaning I am completely fearless and I get on this channel, switch on this camera, and start talking to the internet and just putting my life out there and saying, I fear nothing. I don't care about your opinions, and I don't care for your validation. I don't care for your views or your comments, and I'm just going to put my life out there, and it's going to be a one-way street. That would be very ballsy of me, number one. That would be my definition of courage. And 3, that is just not what life is about. I wouldn't get to that point. It takes a lot of fear. It takes a mix of fear, but even in the face of that fear, a willingness to step up and say, I'm still going to pursue this no matter what. Even if I look like a fool, even if I look embarrassed, even if I do not know what the end result is going to look like, I'm going to be courageous. And that is really positive. That is one of the biggest takeaways of this reading for me today. You're more courageous than you know. If you are stepping up to the plate, whether you have fear, and of course we've established that having fear is a normal part of life. Having fear is a normal part of actually being courageous. So whether you have the fear, I'd look at you sideways if you didn't have the fear, but you have the fear. But despite that fear, you stand up to your challenges and you say, you know what, I'm going to try. That to me is courageous. And that to me is beautiful. Do you think I wanted to get sober? Because I did not. For the longest time, I did not want to get sober. And why I did not want to get sober is because I had the biggest fear that my life would suck sober. I had tried sobriety, a month here, 3 months there, when I was put in rehab, 4.5 months there, and I had done sobriety and I did not like it. I hated being sober. There was a reason I drank the way I did. For me, alcohol was a medicine. So whenever the thought used to come to my mind, maybe you need to get sober. Whenever people used to tell me, you're an alcoholic, you need to get sober. Of course, it used to cross my mind, maybe I should get sober. But that thought was quickly overplanted by fear. The fear of what my life would look like sober, like the long term. I couldn't imagine my life sober because I referenced how my life used to look sober back in the day for those 3 months, those 4.5 months that I had tried, and it looked awful. I couldn't imagine going through that again. I couldn't imagine doing that again as compared to my current circumstances of being drunk, until it got to the point where being drunk was just as painful, if not more painful, than being sober. So I had a choice to make: sobriety or die drunk. I think the fear of sobriety kept me drunk for a very, very long time. And finally, when getting drunk was so painful, day in and day out, I finally had the courage. And that is the willingness to step up and one day say, just for today, I think I want to try. I think I want to try and see how the other side is. And 6 years and 9 months later, here we are on the other side called sobriety. So kindly like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you think about this reading. Let me know what you've learned from this video. Let me know what you think about the daily reflection of today. And let's chat down in the comments below. Until the next video, goodbye guys. Have a great day.